Hello, in this Databasics session, we're going to go over how to create an expense report. Now, an expense report is going to match up with the pay period that we're in, and we're going to use the date ranges to name our expense report. So there's two ways to create an expense report. I can either click up here and start a new report, or I can come over here where it says create new report and click on that. And this is the cover page. This is the shell that's going to hold all my expenses for the pay period. And the date that I'm going to use is the current period that we're in. I can put a note in here if I want. And then down here, the cost center that's going to populate is going to be whatever your primary cost center is. And I recommend that you just leave it your primary cost center. There is an option to add or change which cost center you're using, but I recommend just using the primary one for the expense report shell. All right, with that, I'm just going to click on Create Report. And my report is created, which is, again, is just the shell that's going to hold my expenses for the pay period. Now I'm going to start adding some expenses to my report. So here are all the different options, similar to what you would have seen in Dayforce previously. In my example, I'm going to add a food charge to my report. So over here, the asterisk fields are going to be the required fields. The date should match up with the actual purchase date, whatever date you your receipt is dated. So in my example, it's June 7th I'm going to select. I'm going to put the dollar amount in. The payment type automatically is going to default to out-of-pocket, so I don't need to do anything there. I can put a note in if I want to. And then down here, this again is going to be my primary cost center. And if you wanted to change this, so say this particular food expense I wanted to charge to a different cost center, what you could do is you can, if you have other cost centers that are assigned to you in Dayforce, you could add a new one. So you could go in here, and then in the cost center, you could either start putting in the cost center number or the cost center name, and you could decide whether you want maybe half of it charged to this particular line and half charged to that particular line. If that's the case, you could do this distribute evenly, and it would be a 50-50% allocation. Or maybe you wanted to put in your own allocation percentage if you wanted to split it 70-30, 80-20, whatever. All right, and then you would save that. I'm actually not going to save this because I only have one cost center, so there's no point in me putting a second one in there. All right, so all of mine is going to go to my primary cost center. I have everything in there right now that I need. I'm going to save that. And after I save it, you'll see this receipts pop up here. I can click on that, and I have two ways now that I can add a receipt. I can either browse from my receipt repository, or I can browse from my local computer. So the local computer would be, say you scan something to your U drive and you just want to grab it from there. I click on that. Or if I've already captured the receipt, say I had used my smartphone and made a copy, a picture of my receipt, and it was already in my receipt repository, I could select that. So here is my receipt repository. Here's the Wegmans $6.75 receipt that matches up. I'm going to check that box, and I'm going to attach the receipt. Okay, so with that, it's attached. It's over here. I can see the date, the 6/7/19. I can make sure my amount matches the amount I'm putting in my expense report. And I'm going to save that. I'm going to add another expense to my report. So you can see this allows you to edit, this allows you to go in. Go back into my expense report. And say I have a phone stipend to add. I can add an expense. Phone stipend is the only charge that does not require a receipt. All these other categories do. So if you've arranged for a phone stipend with your supervisor, and that's permissible for you to do, you could go in and add that. So say for the month of July, I have a $25 phone stipend. I could put that in and go ahead and save that. So over here, this is the cover page. This is the report that I'm in. These are my expense lines. So I had the food item from Wegmans, and then I had my phone stipend. This paper clip here, this is my attachments that are in. So the only attachment I have right now is just the Wegmans receipt. And then this button down here is my validation button. And periodically you're going to want to validate and make sure that all of your tests have been passed. And in my case, I'm not getting any errors. My report passed validation. I'll show you an example of something that wouldn't pass validation, and that would be, say I added an expense, and I'm going to give it a couple validation errors. I'm going to have it be over the amount that is allowed, and I'm going to purposely not attach a receipt to this. Okay. Looking over here, you notice I have the paper clip on my food because I did attach the Wegmans receipt. These other ones don't have a paper clip. I'm going to click my validation, and now I have two validation errors. So this is my expense report, the 1189, that matches up with the shell that I created. The 3 is I'm on the third line of my expense report, and the problem is that I went over the dollar amount that was allowed, and I also did not attach a receipt. So with this, if I wanted to submit this to my supervisor to approve, I'm not going to be able to because I have these validation errors, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and I'm going to actually delete this item. I'm going to click on the little sideways bars, click delete, and that line will go away. While I'm here, though, I also want to mention that you can always change the expense type. So I had this coded as client assistance, but say that was wrong and it should have been one of these other categories, I could just go in and I could change it. Just click on that and it will accept it. All right, I'm going to delete this, as I mentioned. All right, and now if I were to do a validation check, now I pass again. And now this is giving me the option to submit this because everything has passed. I'm going to wait on submitting it, though, because what we're asking is that you keep this report open for the whole payroll period. So don't submit it until you do your Dayforce timesheet on Monday and submit that. Then you could go ahead and you could submit your expense report at the same time.